Hello. I'm going to take a few minutes of your time to give you my experience with COVID-19. I've been speaking with a lot of friends and family these past few weeks, and they've all been very curious as to what I've been going through, what my symptoms have been, and what my experience has been firsthand versus what you're seeing in the media. Some of it has been similar to what you're seeing in the media. Some of it's been contrary to what you're seeing in the media. But regardless of that, I'm not intending to give anybody the gospel. It's just simply my experience in hopes that bringing this to a wider audience might help you or somebody that you know. This information as of today, March 31st, 2020. 3 weeks ago, on March 10th, I was laying here on my couch at home and it hit me like a ton of bricks out of the blue. I was good 1 minute, bad the next. I had a splitting headache. I had this deep bone ache. It was very painful. I had feverish chills and I had a heaviness in my chest, not really quite shortness of breath, but I had pain and it felt like I had a weight on my chest. So the next day I went to urgent care. They gave me an EKG. They tested me for the flu. They gave me a chest x-ray. They all came back negative. They took my temperature. I joked that with my feverish chills, I should say, that I thought my fever was going to be like 150. As it turns out, I didn't even register a fever, but I had these chills as if I was just burning up. I asked the doctor, should I be tested for COVID-19? She said at the time that I didn't qualify because I didn't have the requisite symptoms and I didn't have any known exposure, at least at the time, so I wouldn't even qualify for a test. So she diagnosed me with the flu, even though I tested negative for it, because she said that everything that she was reviewing indicated that I had the flu and the test could have been a false negative. They gave me Tamiflu and sent me on my way. The next day, which would have been Thursday the 12th, and then into the Friday, March 13th, I was out. I was on the couch, head on a pillow, couldn't move. Everything I did made me so tired. I couldn't do anything without having to just lay down. I had a deep bone ache. I had a headache that it just felt like my head was going to explode. I developed this cough, and it wasn't a dry cough. It was like when you go outside when it's like 20 below zero outside, take a deep breath and your lungs kind of grab. That's what I was feeling. And that lingered up until a few days ago, actually. So anyway, I was out, I took my Tamiflu. Now, a few days later, on that Saturday, March 14th, I was starting to feel better. So I went to the office. I figured I was diagnosed with the flu. I was coming over it, I'd be okay. I did some work. And then Sunday, I felt not great, but not awful. Monday, again, I wasn't feeling awful, but I wasn't feeling great. I went to the office, had a pretty normal day, but started to fade at the end of the day. That next day, March 17th, which was 1 week after I was symptomatic, I was right back to where I was, headache, fatigue, deep bone ache. So I had you see this, I felt bad and then I started to feel good and then I started to feel bad again. Back on the couch, just knocked out. On the 18th, I discovered that I was actually exposed to COVID-19. Some people at a charity event I had been to had tested positive. So now with the symptoms I was experiencing and the positive exposure, I called my doctor and I qualified for a COVID-19 test. On Thursday, March 19th, I went to the hospital. I was in an ambulance garage separate from the hospital. It was very scary, but needless to say that the hospital staff could not have been more wonderful. They administered the COVID-19 test. It was incredibly uncomfortable. They stick this metal rod in your nose. It feels like it goes into your brain. They have to do it 3 times. Nose was bleeding, but I'm very thankful to have the test, but definitely an uncomfortable experience. I don't know if that's changed in the past couple weeks. They also tested me for the flu. They tested me for strep, common cold. Doctor came back, said that everything was negative except for COVID-19. That had to be sent out, and that we'd know in about 48 hours. But if he was a betting man, he would diagnose me with COVID-19 and treated me as such, so I had to go into a 14-day quarantine. I asked him, does my wife need to be tested? He said, we're not interested in wasting tests. If you have it, she has it. So nevertheless, the one thing he did say to me about 100 times is, we just don't know enough about it yet. So again, that was back on March 19th. So I went home. For the course of that next week, I still had the headache, I still had the deep bone ache, but then I started to develop this complete loss of a sense of smell and sense of taste. Couldn't taste my food, couldn't smell anything. I had an orange, the most aromatic thing you could eat, and it tasted like I was eating a rubber ball. I couldn't taste anything. By the end of that week then, which would have been March 26, 27, just before this past weekend, my symptoms seemed to pretty much subside. The headache was gone. I still had that cough, that grabbing cough, but I didn't have the deep bone ache anymore. I regained my sense of taste. I regained my sense of smell. Fast forward to today, March 31st, 3 weeks after I was originally symptomatic and 12 days after I was tested. I just got my test results today, 12 days later, that I was positive for COVID-19. The testing system is a mess. I know they're working on it and I hope they get it fixed, but I just don't know how, after 12 days, finally telling someone they have COVID-19, they have any idea how many people really have this. And another thing that didn't make any sense, they're telling me that some people don't exhibit symptoms that have it, but yet you have to have symptoms in order to qualify for a test. It doesn't seem to add up, but again, I hope they're working on that. Nevertheless, Erin and the kids are great. Erin had symptoms for about a week. They were much lighter than mine. She had the headache, she had the fatigue, touch of nausea, but for the most part, she's bounced back. And the kids, we were proactively taking their temperatures just to make sure that they didn't have any fevers. They each spiked a fever of around 99, 99 and a half. One time, we gave them a little children's Tylenol and they were fine. If we hadn't been proactively taking their temperatures, we may have even missed it. They really haven't missed a beat. They haven't slowed down. One thing my doctor told me is make sure you're taking Tylenol and not Advil or Motrin. So that's one thing to, and it's been disputed, I think, in some of the articles I've read, but Tylenol so far has treated me well. In any event, if you have any questions, please feel free to call me. I'm happy to share my experience with you. If you want me to expand on anything, send me a text message, send me an email, give me a call. Stay home, flatten the curve, do all that stuff, and hopefully we'll get through this sooner than later.